Ever feel like you're stuck on repeat, living the same struggles, the same stress, the same limitations? What if the key to breaking free isn't out there but inside you? A hidden power in your mind that can literally reshape your reality. Science now proves your thoughts don't just influence your future, they rewire your brain, change your biochemistry, and even alter your DNA. Observation alone can shift physical reality. Your emotions can imprint on your genes. Your brain has the power to heal your body, break lifelong patterns, and unlock limitless potential. In this video, we're diving into the shocking science behind neuroplasticity, quantum physics, and epigenetics, where the impossible becomes reality. You'll discover groundbreaking research, real life transformations, and powerful techniques to reprogram your subconscious mind and design the life you truly want. This isn't just theory, this is the science of transformation. And once you understand it, nothing in your life will ever be the same. Welcome to Mindful Rise. We're so glad you're here. And if you're new to our community, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. We're on this journey of transformation together. Before we talk about the practical steps of cultivating self-love, let's take a moment to truly understand what it means. It's a term that gets thrown around a lot these days, but its true essence often gets lost in the noise. Self-love isn't about vanity or ego. It's something much deeper, much more profound. It's the bedrock of a healthy and fulfilling life. Before we delve further, it's important to differentiate self-love from selfishness or narcissism. Those are distortions of self-love, where the focus becomes excessively inward, disregarding the needs and feelings of others. True self-love, on the other hand, is about honoring your own worth and well-being, which ultimately allows you to show up more authentically and compassionately in the world. It's about recognizing that you are worthy of love just as you are, imperfections and all. Before we explore the components of self-love, consider this. It's not a destination. It's a journey. It's a continuous process of learning, growing, and evolving. There will be days when you feel incredibly connected to your sense of self-worth, and there will be days when you struggle. That's perfectly normal. The important thing is to keep showing up for yourself, to keep nurturing that inner relationship. Before we move on, let's unpack the definition of self-love as appreciating oneself through actions that support physical, psychological, and spiritual growth. Notice the emphasis on actions. Self-love isn't just a feeling, it's something you do. It's about making conscious choices that contribute to your overall well-being. Before we look at practical applications, let's talk about physical growth. This isn't just about physical appearance, although taking care of your body is certainly a part of it. It's about honoring your physical self by nourishing it with healthy food, getting enough rest, engaging in regular exercise, and listening to its needs. It's about recognizing that your body is your temple, a vessel that carries you through life, and treating it with respect. Before we discuss the psychological aspects, consider that psychological growth involves nurturing your mind, emotions, and thoughts. It's about developing self-awarenesses, understanding your emotional patterns, and learning healthy coping mechanisms. It's about challenging negative self-talk, cultivating a positive mindset, and practicing self-compassion. It's also about seeking professional help when needed, recognizing that it's a sign of strength, not weakness, to ask for support. Before we touch on the spiritual dimension, remember that spiritual growth is a deeply personal journey. It's about connecting with something larger than yourself, whether that's through religion, meditation, nature, or simply a sense of awe and wonder. It's about exploring your values, discovering your purpose, and living a life that aligns with your authentic self. It's about finding meaning and connection in the world around you. Before we forget, self love also involves accepting yourself completely, including your flaws and imperfections. It's about recognizing that everyone makes mistakes, that everyone has areas where they can improve. It's about forgiving yourself for your past mistakes and learning from them rather than dwelling on them. It's about embracing your vulnerabilities and recognizing that they are a part of what makes you human. Before we go any further, let me reiterate. Self-love is about treating yourself with kindness and compassion. It's about speaking to yourself in a loving and supportive way, even when you've made a mistake or you're feeling down. It's about offering yourself the same understanding and forgiveness that you would offer a dear friend. It's about being your own best advocate and cheerleader. Before we conclude this section, it's essential to emphasize the importance of prioritizing your personal well being. This means setting boundaries, saying no to things that drain your energy, and making time for activities that bring you joy and replenishment. It's about recognizing that your needs are just as important as anyone else's and that it's okay to put yourself first sometimes. It's not selfish, it's essential. It's about recognizing that you can't pour from an empty cup. Taking care of yourself is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Before we delve into the specifics, let's acknowledge that the benefits of self love are far reaching and profound, impacting every aspect of our lives. It's not just some feel good concept. It's the bedrock of a happy, healthy, and fulfilling existence. When we cultivate a deep and genuine love for ourselves, we set in motion a cascade of positive changes that ripple outwards, transforming our inner world and our outer experiences. Before we explore the connection between self love and mental health, consider this. When we value and appreciate ourselves, we're less likely to fall prey to negative self talk, self criticism, and self doubt. We develop a resilience to stress and adversity, recognizing that we are capable of overcoming challenges. We become our own safe haven, a source of comfort and support, no matter what life throws our way. Before we discuss self esteem, think about how self love acts as a buffer against anxiety and depression. When we have a strong foundation of self worth, we're less likely to seek validation from external sources. We don't need others to tell us we're good enough because we already know it. This inner sense of security and acceptance allows us to navigate the ups and downs of life with greater ease and equanimity. Before we move on, it's important to understand the link between self love and self esteem. Self esteem is often described as a feeling of confidence and respect for oneself. But true self esteem isn't about arrogance or inflated ego. It's about a deep and genuine acceptance of who you are, flaws and all. And that acceptance, that unconditional regard for yourself, is rooted in self love. Before we talk about relationships, consider this. Self love allows us to set healthy boundaries. When we know our worth, we're less likely to tolerate mistreatment or settle for less than we deserve. We understand that we are worthy of love and respect, and we refuse to compromise on that. This ability to set boundaries is crucial for maintaining healthy relationships, both with ourselves and with others. Before we explore the impact on personal growth, let's reflect on the idea that self love sets the foundation for a healthy relationship with oneself. This is perhaps the most fundamental benefit of all. When we have a strong and loving relationship with ourselves, all other relationships become easier and more fulfilling. We attract healthier partners, we build stronger friendships, and we create deeper connections with our families. Before we discuss emotional well being, think about how self love fosters emotional resilience. When we're connected to our sense of self worth, we're better equipped to handle difficult emotions. We don't suppress or deny our feelings. We acknowledge them, process them, and learn from them. We recognize that emotions are a natural part of the human experience, and we allow ourselves to feel them without judgment. Before we consider the impact on physical health, remember that self love often translates into taking better care of our physical selves. When we value our bodies, we're more likely to nourish them with healthy food, engage in regular exercise, and get enough rest. We treat our bodies with respect, recognizing that they are our temples, our vessels for experiencing life. Before we talk about achieving goals, consider this. Self love fuels our motivation and drive. When we believe in ourselves, we're more likely to take risks, pursue our dreams, and persevere through challenges. We're not afraid of failure because we know that even if we stumble, we are still worthy of love and respect. Self love gives us the courage to step outside our comfort zones and reach for our full potential. Before we conclude, let's not forget the simple joy and peace that comes with self love. When we truly love ourselves, we experience a sense of inner contentment that transcends external circumstances. We're able to find joy in the present moment, appreciate the small things, and live with greater gratitude and appreciation for life. It's about recognizing that you are enough, just as you are, and that you deserve to be happy. It's about coming home to yourself. Before we explore strategies for cultivating self love, it's important to acknowledge the common obstacles that often stand in our way. The path to self acceptance and self compassion isn't always smooth. There are numerous internal and external forces that can hinder our progress. Understanding these barriers is the first step towards overcoming them. Before we delve into the specifics, consider this. One of the most significant barriers to self love is negative self talk. That inner critic, that voice inside our heads that constantly judges, criticizes, and belittles us, can be incredibly damaging to our self esteem and sense of worth. It whispers doubts, amplifies insecurities, and convinces us that we're not good enough. Before we discuss societal pressures, think about how negative self talk often stems from early childhood experiences, societal conditioning, and cultural expectations. We may have internalized messages from parents, teachers, or peers that led us to believe we weren't worthy of love or acceptance. These deeply ingrained beliefs can be difficult to challenge, but they're not impossible to overcome. Before we move on, let's explore the different forms that negative self talk can take. It might manifest as harsh self criticism, where we pick apart our appearance, our performance, or our personality. It might involve catastrophizing, where we imagine the worst possible outcomes and dwell on potential failures. Or it might involve comparing ourselves unfavorably to others, constantly measuring ourselves against unrealistic standards. Before we talk about unrealistic standards, consider this. Societal pressures play a significant role in shaping our self perception and influencing our ability to embrace self love. We're constantly bombarded with images of idealized beauty, success, and happiness, often portrayed in media and advertising. These unrealistic standards can create a sense of inadequacy and make us feel like we're never quite good enough. Before we delve deeper, think about how social media can exacerbate these pressures. The curated and often filtered versions of reality that we see online can lead to feelings of envy, comparison, and self doubt. We may start to believe that everyone else is living perfect lives while we're somehow falling short. It's important to remember that social media often presents a distorted view of reality and that it's crucial to cultivate a healthy perspective. Before we discuss self acceptance, let's explore the impact of cultural norms and expectations. In some cultures, there may be a strong emphasis on external achievements, physical appearance, or conformity to traditional roles. These pressures can make it difficult to embrace our individuality and accept ourselves for who we truly are. It takes courage to challenge these norms and define our own standards of success and happiness. Before we move on, consider the role of perfectionism. The pursuit of perfection is often a veiled attempt to gain love and acceptance. We may believe that if we're perfect enough, we'll finally be worthy. But the truth is, perfection is an illusion. No one is perfect. And the constant striving for it can lead to anxiety, stress, and ultimately a diminished sense of self-worth. Before we talk about comparison, think about how comparing ourselves to others can be a major obstacle to self-worth. There will always be someone who is more beautiful, more successful, or more accomplished than us. But the truth is, everyone is on their own unique journey. Comparing ourselves to others is a recipe for unhappiness. It's important to focus on our own progress and celebrate our own achievements. Before we conclude this section, let's remember that overcoming these barriers to self-love is a process, not an event. It takes time, effort, and self-compassion. It's about learning to challenge negative self-talk, setting healthy boundaries, and embracing our imperfections. It's about recognizing that we are worthy of love and acceptance, just as we are. It's about silencing that inner critic and becoming our own biggest cheerleader. Before we explore the practical steps, remember that cultivating self-love is an ongoing journey, not a destination. It requires consistent effort, patience, and a willingness to be kind to yourself. There will be days when it feels easier than others, and that's perfectly normal. The key is to keep practicing, to keep nurturing that inner relationship. Before we delve into specific strategies, let's acknowledge that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to self-love. What works for one person may not work for another. It's about experimenting, exploring different techniques, and finding what resonates with you. It's about discovering what truly nourishes your soul. Before we talk about positive self-talk, consider this. One of the most powerful tools for cultivating self-love is practicing positive self-talk. It's about learning to speak to yourself with kindness and understanding. Before we move on, let's explore how to identify and challenge negative self-talk. Pay attention to the thoughts that run through your mind throughout the day. Are they critical, judgmental, or self-deprecating? Once you identify a negative thought, challenge its validity. Is there any evidence to support it? Or is it simply a habitual pattern of thinking? Before we discuss affirmations, think about how to reframe negative thoughts into positive affirmations. For example, if you find yourself thinking, "I'm not good enough," you can reframe it into, "I am worthy of love and respect." Repeat these affirmations regularly, both silently and aloud. The more you repeat them, the more they will start to sink into your subconscious mind. Before we talk about self-care, consider this. Engaging in self-care activities is essential for nurturing self-love. Self-care isn't just about indulging in occasional treats. It's about making conscious choices that support your physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being on a regular basis. It's about prioritizing your needs and making time for activities that bring you joy and relaxation. Before we move on, let's explore different forms of self-care. It could involve taking a relaxing bath, reading a good book, spending time in nature, listening to music, practicing yoga, or meditating. It could be anything that makes you feel good and helps you recharge. It's important to find activities that you genuinely enjoy and that fit into your lifestyle. Before we discuss boundaries, think about how self-care is not selfish. It's an act of self-preservation. When we take care of ourselves, we're better equipped to handle stress, manage our emotions, and show up more fully in our lives. It's about recognizing that we are worthy of rest, relaxation, and enjoyment. Before we talk about positive environments, consider this. Setting healthy boundaries is another crucial aspect of self love. This involves learning to say no to things that drain your energy, compromise your values, or violate your personal space. It's about protecting your time, your energy, and your emotional well being. Before we move on, let's explore how to set healthy boundaries. It starts with recognizing your own needs and limits. What are your non negotiables? What are you willing to tolerate and what are you not? Once you've identified your boundaries, communicate them clearly and assertively. It may feel uncomfortable at first, but it gets easier with practice. Before we discuss professional help, think about how surrounding yourself with positivity can significantly impact your self esteem and sense of worth. This involves building a supportive environment, both in your personal and professional life. It's about choosing to spend time with people who lift you up, encourage you, and believe in you. Before we conclude, let's remember that seeking professional help is a sign of strength, not weakness. If you're struggling with self love, self esteem, or mental health challenges, don't hesitate to consult with a therapist or counselor. They can provide valuable support, guidance, and tools to help you on your journey. It's about recognizing that sometimes we need extra support, and there's no shame in asking for it. It's an act of self love in itself. Before we dive into specific ideas, let's remember that Valentine's Day isn't just about romantic love. It's a celebration of love in all its forms, including self love. It's an opportunity to nurture your relationship with yourself, to honor your worth, and to indulge in activities that bring you joy and relaxation. It's a chance to remind yourself that you are worthy of love, just as you are. Before we explore activities, consider this. Valentine's Day can be a particularly challenging time for some people, especially those who are single or feeling lonely. But it doesn't have to be. Instead of focusing on what you might be lacking, shift your focus to appreciating yourself and all the wonderful things you have to offer. Embrace this day as an opportunity for self care and self compassion. Before we talk about pampering, think about how taking a warm bath can be a wonderfully soothing and self indulgent activity. Light some candles, add some essential oils, put on some relaxing music, and simply soak in the warmth. Allow yourself to let go of any stress or tension you might be holding on to. It's a simple yet powerful way to show yourself some love. Before we move on, let's explore the joy of reading. Curling up with a favorite book can be a wonderful form of self care. It allows you to escape into another world, to lose yourself in a story, and to reconnect with your imagination. Whether it's a classic novel, a lighthearted romance, or an inspiring biography, reading can be a deeply enriching experience. Before we discuss nature, consider this. Going for a leisurely walk can be a fantastic way to connect with yourself and the world around you. Take some time to appreciate the beauty of nature, to breathe in the fresh air, and to clear your mind. It's a great way to de stress, to get some exercise, and to simply enjoy the present moment. Before we talk about hobbies, think about how engaging in a new hobby or revisiting an old one can be a fun and fulfilling way to celebrate Valentine's Day. It's an opportunity to explore your creativity, to learn something new, and to challenge yourself. Whether it's painting, knitting, playing an instrument, or trying a new sport, engaging in activities that you enjoy can boost your self esteem and bring you a sense of accomplishment. Before we move on, let's talk about the importance of setting aside dedicated time for these self love activities. Treat yourself as you would treat a loved one. Schedule these activities into your day just as you would schedule a date night. Make it a priority to carve out some time for yourself, even if it's just for a few minutes each day. Before we conclude this section, remember that self love is not selfish, it's essential. Taking care of yourself is not a luxury, it's a necessity. You deserve to be happy, healthy, and fulfilled. So, this Valentine's Day, make a conscious effort to show yourself some love. Engage in activities that bring you joy, that nourish your soul, and that remind you of your worth. You are worthy of love, not just on Valentine's Day, but every day of the year. It's about celebrating you. Before we explore the connection between mindfulness and self love, let's understand that self reflection is a crucial component of personal growth. It's about taking the time to look inward, to examine our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, and to gain a deeper understanding of ourselves. It's about becoming more aware of our strengths, our weaknesses, and our patterns so that we can make conscious choices about how we want to live our lives. Before we delve into mindfulness, consider this. Mindfulness is the practice of paying attention to the present moment without judgment. It's about observing our thoughts and feelings without getting carried away by them. It's about being fully present in the here and now, rather than dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. Mindfulness allows us to create space between ourselves and our thoughts so that we can respond to situations with greater clarity and wisdom. Before we discuss staying present, think about how mindfulness can be a powerful tool for cultivating self love. When we're fully present, we're more likely to appreciate the small joys and simple pleasures in life. We become more aware of our bodies, our emotions, and our thoughts, which allows us to connect with ourselves on a deeper level. Mindfulness helps us to recognize our worth and appreciate all that we are, just as we are. Before we move on, let's explore different ways to practice mindfulness. It could involve meditation, yoga, deep breathing exercises, or simply taking a few moments throughout the day to pause and observe your surroundings. It's about finding what works for you and incorporating it into your daily routine. Even a few minutes of mindfulness each day can make a significant difference. Before we talk about journaling, consider this. Journaling is another valuable tool for self-reflection and personal growth. It's a way to explore your thoughts and feelings, to process your experiences, and to gain insights into your own behavior patterns. Journaling can be a powerful way to cultivate self awareness and to identify areas where you might want to grow or change. Before we delve deeper, let's explore the benefits of journaling for self love. It allows you to reflect on your positive qualities and achievements, to celebrate your successes, and to acknowledge your strengths. It can also help you to identify negative self talk patterns and to challenge those thoughts with more positive and self compassionate ones. Before we discuss positive qualities, think about how journaling can be a safe space to express your emotions without judgment. It's a place where you can be honest with yourself, where you can explore your vulnerabilities, and where you can process difficult experiences. It's a way to release pent up emotions and to gain a greater understanding of your inner world. Before we move on, let's explore different journaling prompts that can help you cultivate self love. You could write about what you're grateful for, what your strengths are, what you're proud of, or what you're looking forward to. You could also write about your values, your goals, and your dreams. The possibilities are endless. Before we talk about achievements, consider this. Journaling can also be a helpful tool for tracking your progress and celebrating your achievements. When you write down your goals and track your progress, you're more likely to stay motivated and to feel a sense of accomplishment. It's a way to reinforce your positive qualities and to build your self esteem. Before we conclude this section, remember that mindfulness and self reflection are not just one time activities, they're ongoing practices. It's about making a commitment to yourself to regularly check in with yourself, to nurture your inner world, and to cultivate a deeper understanding of who you are. It's about recognizing your inherent worth and celebrating all that you are. It's about being your own best friend and advocate. Before we explore the connection between physical well being and self love, let's understand that our bodies are our temples. They are the vessels through which we experience life, and they deserve to be treated with respect and care. Nourishing our bodies is not just about physical health, it's an act of self love. It's about recognizing that we are worthy of feeling good, both inside and out. Before we delve into diet, consider this. What we put into our bodies directly impacts our physical health, our mental well being, and our overall sense of self. A balanced diet, rich in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and lean protein, provides the essential nutrients our bodies need to thrive. Before we discuss specific foods, think about how nourishing our bodies with wholesome foods is an act of self respect. It's about choosing to fuel ourselves with ingredients that make us feel good, both physically and emotionally. It's about recognizing that we deserve to feel vibrant, energetic, and healthy. Before we move on, let's talk about the importance of listening to our bodies. Everyone's nutritional needs are different, and what works for one person may not work for another. It's about paying attention to how different foods make you feel and making choices that support your individual needs. It's about developing a healthy relationship with food, where you're not restricting yourself unnecessarily, but you're also not indulging in foods that make you feel sluggish or unwell. Before we talk about exercise, consider this. Regular exercise is another crucial component of physical well being. It's not just about building muscle or losing weight, it's about moving your body in a way that feels good. It's about releasing endorphins, which have mood boosting effects, and it's about improving your overall physical health and fitness. Before we delve deeper, let's explore the connection between exercise and self esteem. When we take care of our bodies through regular physical activity, we often feel more confident and empowered. We feel stronger, more capable, and more in control of our own health. This increased sense of self efficacy can have a significant impact on our self esteem and our overall sense of well being. Before we discuss different types of exercise, think about how finding an activity you enjoy is key to maintaining a consistent exercise routine. It could be anything from dancing to hiking to swimming to playing a sport. The most important thing is to find something that you genuinely enjoy so that you're more likely to stick with it in the long run. Before we move on, consider the mental health benefits of exercise. Physical activity has been shown to reduce stress, anxiety, and depression. It can also improve sleep quality, boost cognitive function, and enhance overall mood. When we take care of our bodies through exercise, we're also taking care of our minds. Before we talk about body image, think about how physical well being contributes to self love by fostering a positive body image. When we feel good about our bodies, we're more likely to accept ourselves for who we are, regardless of our size or shape. It's about appreciating our bodies for all that they do for us, rather than focusing on perceived flaws or imperfections. Before we conclude this section, remember that nourishing the body is an act of self love. It's about making conscious choices that support your physical and mental well being. It's about treating your body with respect and kindness, recognizing that it is a precious gift. It's about honoring your body and all that it allows you to do. It's about feeling good in your own skin. Before we explore the beauty of imperfection, let's acknowledge a fundamental truth. No one is perfect. We all have flaws, we all make mistakes, and we all have areas where we can improve. The pursuit of perfection is a never ending and ultimately frustrating journey. True self love lies not in achieving some unattainable ideal, but in embracing our imperfections and accepting ourselves fully just as we are. Before we delve deeper, consider this. The idea of perfection is often a social construct, a set of unrealistic standards imposed upon us by society, media, and even ourselves. We're constantly bombarded with images of idealized beauty, success, and happiness, which can lead us to believe that we're somehow falling short if we don't measure up. But these images are often distorted and unattainable. They don't reflect the reality of human experience, which is messy, imperfect, and beautiful in its own way. Before we discuss uniqueness, think about how our imperfections are actually what make us unique. They're what distinguish us from one another, what give us our individual character and charm. Imagine a world where everyone was perfect, where everyone looked the same, acted the same, and thought the same. It would be a dull and monotonous place. It's our imperfections, our quirks, and our idiosyncrasies that make us interesting, that make us relatable, and that make us human. Before we move on, let's explore the concept of self acceptance. Self acceptance is the ability to embrace all aspects of ourselves, both the positive and the negative, without judgment. It's about recognizing that we are worthy of love and respect, even with our flaws and imperfections. It's about letting go of the need to be perfect and embracing the reality that we are perfectly imperfect. Before we talk about mistakes, consider this. Mistakes are an inevitable part of life. Everyone makes them. It's how we learn, how we grow, and how we evolve. Instead of beating ourselves up over our mistakes, we can choose to view them as learning opportunities. We can ask ourselves, what can I learn from this experience? How can I do things differently next time? Mistakes are not failures, they're stepping stones on the path to growth and self discovery. Before we delve deeper, let's explore the concept of self compassion. Self compassion is about treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer a dear friend who had made a mistake. It's about recognizing that we are all human, that we all suffer, and that we all make mistakes. It's about offering ourselves words of comfort and encouragement rather than harsh self criticism. Before we discuss learning opportunities, think about how self compassion allows us to forgive ourselves for our mistakes. Forgiveness is not about condoning our actions, it's about letting go of the negative emotions associated with them. It's about freeing ourselves from the burden of guilt and shame so that we can move forward and learn from our experiences. Before we move on, consider the power of vulnerability. Embracing our imperfections allows us to be more vulnerable, more authentic, and more real. When we're not trying to project an image of perfection, we can connect with others on a deeper level. We can share our struggles, our fears, and our insecurities, and we can receive support and understanding in return. Before we talk about growth, think about how embracing our imperfections allows us to grow and evolve. When we accept ourselves fully, we're more open to learning, to trying new things, and to stepping outside our comfort zones. We're not afraid of making mistakes because we know that they're a part of the process. It's through our imperfections that we discover our strengths, our resilience, and our capacity for growth. Before we conclude this section, remember that embracing imperfections is not about giving up on self improvement. It's not about settling for less than we're capable of. It's about recognizing that growth and self acceptance can coexist. We can strive to be better versions of ourselves without judging ourselves harshly for where we are right now. It's about loving ourselves unconditionally, flaws and all. It's about recognizing that our imperfections are a part of what makes us beautiful, unique, and human. Before we discuss the long-term aspect of self-love, let's acknowledge that it's not a quick fix or a one-time achievement. It's an ongoing journey, a lifelong practice that requires consistent effort, patience, and self-compassion. Just like any relationship, our relationship with ourselves needs to be nurtured and cultivated over time. It's about making a commitment to our own well being and showing up for ourselves day after day. Before we delve into setting goals, consider this. Building a long term self love practice is about creating sustainable habits that support our physical, emotional, and spiritual well being. It's about integrating self care, self compassion, and self reflection into our daily lives so that they become an integral part of who we are. It's not about striving for perfection, it's about making progress, one step at a time. Before we talk about realistic goals, think about how setting realistic goals is crucial for long term success. If we set our sights too high, we're likely to become discouraged and give up. It's better to start small, with achievable goals that we can build upon over time. For example, instead of aiming to completely transform our lives overnight, we might start by committing to practicing mindfulness for 5 minutes each day, or by taking a walk 3 times a week. Before we move on, let's explore the importance of breaking down larger goals into smaller, more manageable steps. If our ultimate goal is to improve our self esteem, we might break that down into smaller steps, such as challenging negative self talk, practicing positive affirmations, and celebrating our accomplishments. Each small step we take brings us closer to our larger goal. Before we discuss assessment, consider this. Regularly assessing and adjusting our self love practices is essential for long term growth. What works for us at one stage of life may not work for us at another. It's important to check in with ourselves periodically and ask ourselves, are these practices still serving me? Are there any areas where I need to make adjustments? Before we delve deeper, think about how self assessment can involve reflecting on our progress, identifying any challenges we're facing, and making necessary adjustments to our routines. Perhaps we've found that a particular type of exercise is no longer enjoyable, so we might need to explore other options. Or perhaps we've realized that we need to spend more time on self reflection and journaling. It's about being flexible and adaptable and tailoring our self love practices to our evolving needs. Before we talk about adjustments, consider this. It's also important to be patient with ourselves. There will be times when we slip up, when we fall back into old habits, or when we struggle to maintain our self love practices. That's perfectly normal. It's all part of the journey. The important thing is to be kind to ourselves, to forgive ourselves for our mistakes, and to get back on track as soon as we can. Before we move on, let's discuss the importance of celebrating our successes, no matter how small they may seem. Acknowledging our progress and celebrating our achievements reinforces positive behaviors and motivates us to keep going. It's about recognizing that we are capable of growth and change, and that we are worthy of love and happiness. Before we talk about consistency, think about how consistency is key to building a long term self love practice. It's not about doing everything perfectly all the time. It's about showing up for ourselves consistently, even when it's difficult. It's about making self love a priority, even when we're busy or stressed. It's about recognizing that we deserve to be loved and cared for, especially by ourselves. Before we conclude this section, remember that building a long term self love practice is a marathon, not a sprint. It's a journey of self discovery, growth, and transformation. It's about learning to love ourselves unconditionally, flaws and all, and about creating a life that is aligned with our values, our passions, and our authentic selves. It's about coming home to yourself and staying there. As we come to the end of this exploration into self love, let's recap its profound importance. Remember, self love is not a luxury, it's a necessity. It's the foundation for a healthy, fulfilling, and joyful life. It impacts our mental health, our relationships, our physical well being, and our overall sense of purpose. It allows us to show up in the world as our most authentic and empowered selves. This Valentine's Day and every day beyond, I encourage you to prioritize self love. Make a conscious effort to nurture your relationship with yourself. Engage in activities that bring you joy, that nourish your soul, and that remind you of your worth. Embrace your imperfections, celebrate your strengths, and treat yourself with the same kindness and compassion you would offer a loved one. Remember, you are worthy of love, just as you are. You are enough, and you deserve to be happy. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring content. And don't forget to share this video with your friends and loved ones so that they too can experience the transformative power of self-love. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Until next time, keep loving yourself.